Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Dr. Colin Zhu, and thank you so much for being here with us. This is the Thrive Bites podcast, and welcome to season 5. Here we talk about 3 things: plant-powered living, enhancing emotional resilience, and creating a thriving mindset. And I interview the most passionate guests here, ranging from physicians to coaches to dietitians to entrepreneurs. And my hope is to give you really informative and high-valued conversations. So please follow us here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and wherever you hear your podcasts. Come on in, and I can't wait to see you inside. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Thrive Bites. Thank you so much for showing up. I am on this episode with Dr. Setare Taabodi, and she is a family nurse practitioner, but she specializes in POTS and autoimmune, conditions. And we take a deeper dive into what that is, her personal firsthand experience with these conditions, and what that meant to her personally and professionally. We go into, a deeper dive into what autoimmunity is, from different angles, applying different types of modalities, and how we can get back to a more aligned health and well-being for ourselves. So you don't want to miss this. If you know anyone that battles with an autoimmune condition, please share this with them. And stay tuned. Okay, guys. Well, welcome to another episode of Thrive Bites podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colin Zhu, and thank you so much for being here with us. You could be anywhere in the world, and you decided to share a few moments to be here with us, and I am very thankful for that. So I have a great session for you guys today. My guest for today is Dr. Setare Taabodi. Hopefully I got that right. She can correct me. Her journey started out as her current journey started out, as a nursing, in the field of nursing. She is currently a holistic and integrative nurse practitioner, and that journey started in 2012. And she was working in the ICU and busying, taking care of critically, ill patients. And she herself has a firsthand experience with her own health issues that she's going to explore. And then in 2021, she's graduated with a doctorate in nursing, and she is a family nurse practitioner, has a degree in it, and she is working in the primary care settings and helping to prevent and reverse chronic disease. And she has so many different modalities and skill sets under her belt, and I can't wait to unpack and dive deeper with that. And without further ado, please welcome Dr. Setare. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Everything is white. It's very immaculate. Do you like to Marie Kondo everything, or
actually, I just moved into this house like maybe less than a year ago, and I haven't had time to decorate. So.
Oh, it's just unmoved. Okay, so we have yet to see whether.
I'm a very colorful person, so yeah, this is not it.
I was like, "Where's the color? Everything is just like."
Yeah.
So number one, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, and I think we were talking a little bit offline. The magic, the positive magic of social media, and not knowing how it comes about, but we know that we kind of connected and we loved each other's backgrounds and journeys professionally. And I was like, wow, great energy. I want to understand and hear about, and I want to share with my audiences more about what you do. So number one, thank you. Where are you calling from?
Reno, Nevada.
All right. I did, when I started off as a trialing physician, I did start my first work assignment in North Vegas. I was working with the Paiute tribe and never had a chance to go to, to Reno. So, but I heard it's lovely. Is it lovely?
I mean, the location is amazing because we're right next to Lake Tahoe. We're in the mountains, but the city itself, you could pass.
Nothing ever starts out good when you say, Okay, so let's go into your origin story. I love, understanding how people arrive from point A to point B. Your professional journey has been in nursing, right? And I don't think, now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever had a nurse practitioner or someone that's achieved the most, most education, in nursing on my show. So I'm very, very grateful. But how did that begin for you? Why did you decide to get onto that journey?
So I think I truly believe that I was like born to be a nurse. I loved caring for people. And I have like immigrant parents. So of course, all of them want you to be like a doctor, a lawyer, engineer. And I was a really good student. And my parents were really pressuring me to go into medicine. But I think just deep down, I always knew that nursing was it for me. I really liked medicine. And I also liked really being with people and being connected with people. So it just kind of seemed like the best fit. Ever since I was in high school, I just knew that I wanted to be a nurse. And then whenever I graduated high school, I went into my bachelor's degree and got a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree in nursing. And then straight out of nursing school, I got a job in the ICU. And I took care of critically ill trauma patients. And it was like the most invigorating experience of my life. I just got to go to work every day and help save lives. So I really enjoyed doing that. But about a year into my nursing career, I got a food poisoning incident that triggered a host of autoimmune conditions. I developed Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I developed postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, or POTS. I developed small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, food sensitivities, eczema, chronic fatigue, just like the works. And I was previously healthy my entire life. And of course, I went to conventional providers first, and they weren't really able to do anything for me. I was just put on, medications, and I still really wasn't getting any better. And I think the thing that frustrated me was every day I went to work, I would see people recover from like the most insane injuries. Like there would be people who were like, run over by a semi truck. And then 4 weeks later, they'd be walking again. And I'd go to work and I was like, okay, if they can recover from that, I could recover from this. I just have to figure out how. And I just really wasn't willing to accept being sick the rest of my life. So then I, kind of out of desperation, because I wasn't really getting any better, I started looking into alternative medicine. So, I did acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine. I did Ayurveda and homeopathy and did all the things. And I did get some relief, but I still really wasn't getting that much better. And then eventually, after several years of trial and error and spending thousands of dollars on different practitioners and different modalities, I came across functional medicine, and I was able to get some relief from there. But and after years and years of like implementing these like really strict diets and spending thousands of dollars on supplements, I still really wasn't feeling like myself. And I was still dependent on medications. I was still on thyroid medications and steroids and things like that. And for me, like the biggest turning point was I knew that I felt different based on the foods that I ate. So I just knew that food was going to heal me, but I just didn't know what foods were. So I kind of went on this like nutritional protocol, like experimentation. So I tried like every nutritional protocol that existed, like the GAPS diet, the autoimmune diet, the vegan diet, the keto diet, just all the diets that existed. I tried all of them. But it wasn't until I came across the plant-based diet that I was really able to get results. And it was a low-fat plant-based diet. And so I started implementing that, and I started implementing more like herbs and kind of large doses of vitamins. And within 6 months, I was able to wean off of all my medications. And it was truly this like, just like this most like, it was just the most like amazing feeling to know that I could like heal myself and things like that. And then so then, around this time, I was really passionate about helping people prevent and reverse chronic disease. I worked in the intensive care unit for 9 years, and I also did the travel nurse thing. And, I traveled all over the country, did all the fun things, but it's just exhausting. It's not good for your mental, physical, emotional health. And now that I was able to heal, chronic illness with natural means, I really wanted to kind of help people do that. And I thought my next step was working as a primary care provider. I thought that, maybe in the primary care setting, I can, give some nutrition advice and things like that. But then as I'm doing my trainings, it became very clear that I was not capable of doing that, especially when I only had like 10 minutes with each patient. So then, I graduated with my nurse practitioner degree, and I just took some time off. I passed my boards, did all the things, and then I just kind of like looked at my life and tried to figure out like what I really wanted to do and not what I should do. Unfortunately, the one good thing that came out of the pandemic was telemedicine became very popular. So I was like, okay, like how can I figure out how to help people via telemedicine? So then I took all these courses online and how to start your own like virtual health practice. So then I did that. So here I am, several months. um, but yeah, no, it's been great. And, people ask me like, oh, like, do you think like, your time in conventional medicine, like, was that like a waste of your time? And I say, absolutely not. Like I learned so much. I'm constantly telling people like, what lab, what I think they should be doing, what diagnostics I think they should have and things like that. So I think, yeah, it's been a journey, but yeah, I think my journey kind of highlights how important it is that we really just need both. Like we really need conventional medicine. Like we do so many good things in conventional medicine. I think sometimes people forget that. Like we're so incredible at trauma and emergency cases and surgeries and things like that. We're just not really good with chronic illness. But yeah, it's kind of nice to have like a bigger toolbox now on how to help people kind of heal.
No, that's awesome. And I thank you, for sharing your journey, your personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question naturally that comes from, you sharing that is, how do you feel? How's your energy level? What were the things that you couldn't do and what are the things that you've been able to kind of get back to doing?
This is a great question. So I was bedbound for several months at certain points in my healing journey. So just like being able to like walk to the mailbox was like huge for me. But now it's like, now I go to Yosemite and hike for 9 hours and I'm fine. So, and it makes me like want to cry because it's just like, oh my gosh, like these were things I thought that I was probably never going to be able to do, right? Because whenever you're sick and you're in the thick of it, you lose a lot of hope, right? So I think, I have this like constant state of gratitude for like what my body's able to do now and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And, we were talking offline, my story about my mom and how she's grounded me in terms of, just this holistic approach to, people and to health. And, you definitely I went through my journey of, I followed integrative docs. I got off of dairy in 2009. I followed functional medicine docs, naturopaths, homeopathy, things like that. And similarly, you find what resonates, with you. It doesn't mean that any of these modalities are better or worse. It's more about collecting tools in this toolbox and figuring out what do you need for yourself, whether you're a provider that uses these tools as a service, because there's so many practitioners are looking to add more to the armamentarium, or as a patient, why not, try, different things, of course, in a safe, informed, manner. Right. And so I think it's great that you've, kind of like myself have taken, also detours, but yours is more of a, health wise, type of pathway.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's been a journey.
Yeah. And kind of like, in order to know where to go, you kind of have to kind of stumble a little bit. So I want to get to what the core of what you do, right? That you've experienced, POTS, you've experienced different types of autoimmune. I want to kind of get into the brunt of it, right? For someone that doesn't know or doesn't have their own personal lived experience, or they do know they have a loved one that have experienced this before. Can you explain what that is? What is, having an autoimmune condition, like what is POTS, as an example?
So POTS is actually really poorly understood in conventional medicine. I think it's now kind of gaining more traction because unfortunately people are developing POTS after COVID or the vaccine. But basically POTS stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And I think I read somewhere it takes about, the average time it takes to get a diagnosis is like 5 years, because simply a lot of providers are just not like well-rounded in it. And so I think, and especially it affects a lot of women. So I think when you get a healthy looking 25-year-old coming into your office complaining of like about chest palpitations or shortness of breath and fatigue, you just say, oh, I think a lot of providers like kind of gaslight them and say, it's probably just, you're just having a panic attack or you're just anxious. But basically, POTS or postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome is a form of dysautonomia. And basically, it affects the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, as you know, is responsible for things like our heart rate and our blood pressure control, digestion, and things like that. So whenever the vagus nerve is experiencing some dysfunction, it causes people to experience erratic heart rates and blood pressures. So for me, my blood pressure would drop suddenly and I would have syncopal episodes and I would pass out. And then some people present differently. Some people have high blood pressure, high heart rate, and they have headaches. They feel like they're, lightheaded, and they feel like their heart's pounding out of their chest. So yeah, everyone presents differently, unfortunately. So right now, the gold standard testing that we have for is a tilt table test that you can get through your cardiologist. But unfortunately, I think there's a lot of there's just such a poor understanding, and because so many people present differently, I think sometimes people, when they don't test negative for the tilt table test based on the criteria, they'll be discredited a lot. When I think in reality, they probably just have a milder form of dysautonomia. But yeah, right now we just don't have very good testing. And besides the tilt table test, it's just ruling out other causes. So echocardiograms and EKGs and things like that. But yeah, it's a very, very poorly understood disease. And I think I went through periods of getting misdiagnosed and things like that. It took me several years. So that's something that I struggled with, and it's very debilitating. It comes along with low blood pressure. So you can't really stand up. You can't really go anywhere. You can't shower because you'll get lightheaded in the shower.
You can't go for walks. You can't exercise. I've had patients with POTS, and they couldn't even exercise. They couldn't any type of, movement,
Exactly.
they had to get out of their bed super, super slowly. Right. They couldn't, like you said, walk to the mailbox,
Yeah, or even going to I remember when I was really sick, I was afraid to go to the bathroom because I was afraid I would pass out on my way there. You know what I mean? It's just extremely debilitating. So I experienced that. And then the Hashimoto's, it was just kind of weird to me because I being 23 years old and being really thin and fit and being diagnosed with a hypothyroid disorder just didn't make sense to me, because we're taught in conventional medicine hypothyroid, you're often overweight, you're cold intolerant, you have brittle hair, you have all these things, and I didn't fit that mold. So unfortunately, I was misdiagnosed for a long time as well, because my thyroid labs would come back normal, my TSH and T4, but no one would ever check my antibodies until I went to a functional medicine practitioner. My TPO antibodies were through the roof. So, again, then that's whenever my symptoms started to make sense. And then the other thing was the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I think at the time, I was doing breath tests, and I would always test negative. But then I did stool tests, functional medicine stool tests, the GI map. But then my streptococcus was super elevated. So I'm okay, so this makes sense. So I think, unfortunately, we have some great testing in conventional medicine, but I think sometimes you need to be a little bit more aggressive and have more detailed labs, because I think a lot of people like me will fall through the cracks.
Yeah. Hey guys, if you are interested in having a consultation with me and actually see me one-on-one, the ChefDoc Lifestyle Medicine practice has partnered with Plant-Based Telehealth, and we offer lifestyle medicine consultations. So you'll be able to see me one-on-one, and I can go over your health history and seeing what we can do to fill in the gaps. We can talk about your physical health, anything from food to lifestyle to diet to setting up your kitchen to cooking preparation to grocery shopping to your mental health. I think it's important that we build our emotional resilience, to talking about your sleep and how to stay hydrated, and what are the best medicines if necessary, what are the best supplementations if necessary. And we do all this in a very concise manner, and it's a conversation. I take the time out to listen. I take the time out to really understand you from the ground up, and to look at all aspects of your physical, emotional, and mental health. And please, drop me a line, schedule an appointment if you want to see me one-on-one. And I am very, very looking forward to learning more about you. And again, thank you so much for visiting here at the ChefDoc.
So that's kind of my experience with it. And I went through a lot of trial and error. Again, I tried so many different things, but it wasn't until I focused on my diet and, focus on lowering my fat intake and focusing on a hyper nourishing diet that I was really able to get better.
And similarly with a lot of other, we call them syndromes, in the medical community or we call them diagnosis of exclusion, like irritable bowel syndrome, dysfunctional uterine bleeding, things like that. It's just, you can't really figure it out until it's like the last resort, type of diagnosis. And, sometimes for me, it's like, you feel kind of guilty. It's kind of like half of it is like, I think this is what it is. And then the other half is like, it's kind of, the last thing that I thought of, I can't really think of anymore, and on one side, as a provider, it doesn't make me feel good to not have the answers for the patient. Right. And on the flip side, as a patient, and being a patient and the provider and playing both half of the coin, it can be very debilitating, mentally exhausting, needing to go, before COVID is running around to every doctor's office or subspecialist, waiting, for months or weeks for an appointment, only to get less than like 10 minutes or 15 minutes if you're lucky, of that time, doing a barrage of, different types of lab work, that's covered, not covered, out of pocket. So there's a lot of, frustrations that patients go through. So I'm, very happy to hear that, you've kind of put yourself in a position, from firsthand experience to say like, hey, I know it's hard, this is where my niche is. How can I help you? Is that pretty much how it became the direction and foundation to what you do now?
Yeah, I just noticed there's like a huge gap in like people and their knowledge on how to heal from dysautonomia or how to reduce a lot of their symptoms. And I think for me, honestly, it kind of merged into a niche simply because I was getting a lot of questions about it. I was like, okay, so this is something that people need help with. And if I focus on this, I can help those people. Because there's a lot of people who focus on like gut health and thyroid conditions and things like that, but not a lot on dysautonomia. I think it's one of those like kind of things that like people are just not really aware of.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you were giving examples of different kinds of autoimmune conditions. What would you say, if you can name some of them? Because I know from your website you have a list of them. What is the common denominator that you've learned, that they share? Is there a common denominator? And if there is, what are they, as a contribution to how they manifest?
So I wasn't taught this in any of my training. I'm not sure if you were either, but I read books that talked about like the root cause of a lot of autoimmune conditions is actually viral. And, I went to the literature and I found so many articles linking like the Epstein-Barr virus to lupus and Hashimoto's. And I think Harvard just recently came out with an article linking the Epstein-Barr virus to multiple sclerosis. So I think, a lot of autoimmune conditions are actually viral. And, I think unfortunately in conventional medicine, like when we don't know the answer to something, we often put the blame on the patient. And I think that's kind of like, maybe it's all in your head, or maybe your body's attacking itself.
That's the worst thing you could do.
The worst thing. But I
don't think I've ever said that to a patient ever.
Thank you. But I think that's the problem. And I think what happens is, I think the thing of what happens is physicians, especially like you guys go through so much training. You guys dedicate like a minimum of like 10 to 12 years of your life to your training and your residency in your profession. And then physicians go out into the world and then they have a patient come in with symptoms that they have never learned about through their intensely rigorous training. And the only thing that a lot of physicians say is like, well, I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know what to say. Maybe it's all in your head, And I think that just like causes so much emotional damage to the patient, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, why would I fake being sick? Like, I want to get better. Like, why would you say that to me? I think that's kind of where I hate this, but it's like we blame a lot of things on autoimmune conditions. The theory has never been proven by science. It's just a theory that someone came up with and said, we don't know what's causing these symptoms. Maybe the body's attacking itself. So then we blame it on the patient. Sorry, like I don't know what to tell you. Your body's attacking itself. But I think with more and more evidence coming out, we're seeing so much evidence linking viruses and pathogens to autoimmune conditions. So I think, for me, I think the plant-based diet especially, it supported my immune system so much that I was able to fight off these, low-grade viral infections, these reactivated, Epstein-Barr virus and things like that to kind of, get rid of my symptoms. And, in my functional medicine testing, I did test positive for Epstein-Barr virus. I did test positive for these things. So I think what I tell a lot of my clients is, we do order Epstein-Barr virus like panels to see if they've had a history of an infection, and sometimes people their titers will be elevated as well to show, or their panel will show a reactivation of the Epstein-Barr virus, and that way I can kind of pinpoint that that's more of like a viral issue than anything, and then we focus on the immune system.
Yeah, because I think going back to the, it's all in your head. I think one of the things is it's very hard to let go of our ego and our pride to say that I just don't know.
Yeah, and I wish they would just say that. I wish providers would feel comfortable saying like, I believe you, I just don't know how to help you. But I think unfortunately, like in medical training is so rigorous and so intense. And I think people feel ashamed for not knowing the answer, when I think it's just okay to not know the answer.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, when you are faced with a lot of pressure, high expectations, whether it's from the medical community or your family and friends, and essentially the buck stops with us, right? So it's an enormous amount of pressure that we don't actually pay attention to, think about. And like you said, be okay and say like, I don't know. I've said that plenty of times, but let me help you. Let me try to find someone who does, right? That is more well-skilled, or has had more time in this than I have, right? There's nothing wrong with saying that, and so that makes a lot of sense on why you went into nursing, to kind of understand from the patient's point of view, the different, emotional, especially the mental emotional side of it, of what they go through when they're battling with a illness. So, so when you get to that point, let's go deeper into, using plant-based diets. We talk a lot on this podcast, about plant-powered eating. What is it, from your perspectives that you've learned about gut health and immune system and how that plays into autoimmune conditions?
So, I think autoimmune conditions are like multifactorial, obviously, but I think first, the first thing that I address, which I think most practitioners do as well, is gut health. I think digestion is huge. If you're not absorbing nutrients, you're not healing. And if you're not eliminating toxins, you're reabsorbing them. So I think that's an incredibly important place to start. So yeah, I definitely focus on gut health first. And obviously, I think fruits and vegetables are the healthiest foods you could put in your body. We're constantly telling our kids that, eat your fruits and vegetables. And I think sometimes we forget that as adults. Like, some certain diets can be so complicated, right? Like, oh, you can only have this or not that. But it's like, if you just keep it really, really simple and eat an abundance of hyper nourishing foods like fruits and vegetables, you can heal a lot of your symptoms. So I think gut health is huge.
Yeah, for sure. My next question is what do you prepare, for yourself? What does Dr. Setare eat in a day?
So I do lemon water every morning and throughout the day. I do celery juice every morning. I love celery juice. I think it's really high in sodium. And it's excellent for digestion. And I think it was essential for healing my POTS because it's essentially salt water, but like healthy salt water. So it just gives me lots of energy. And then I'll have a fruit smoothie, and that will usually be like bananas, berries, orange juice, things like that. And then lunch will probably be a big salad. And I'm like I don't want to brag, but I make really good salads. And
we have to invite you back for a food demo. So
okay, yeah, I think the biggest thing, like with salads, I put lots of fresh herbs in it and different textures of fruits and vegetables, cucumbers, tomatoes, asparagus, onion, things like that. And then dinner is usually something cooked. I really love potatoes in any form. Sweet potatoes, roasted veggies. Sometimes if I do go out for dinner, it might be like some like vegan sushi. But yeah.
That's awesome. Explain the lemon water. Why lemon water?
Again, I think it's really great for digestion. It helps to stimulate bile production. So it helps kind of cleanse the liver, kind of kickstarts digestion in the morning, especially. And yeah, it just feels really good. And I think I try and make a point to drink filtered water, but I think, filtering water also removes the minerals in it that help you absorb water. So I think adding something with minerals, it could be like trace mineral drops that you can buy from the store, but I'm really cheap. So I just tend to put those minerals back with like lemon juice or lime juice or cucumbers or fresh herbs or something like that.
Yeah, I make it a point to make, a fresh smoothie every single day for me and my family. So, and quite honestly, if I don't do that, I don't get enough servings. It's very, very, very hard, because being a plant eater, it takes time. You're working, those chewing muscles way more. And I don't know about you, but it just hurts my jaw. I'm like, I can't chew anymore, So, so I throw everything into a smoothie, which I also tell my patients that, it's important to chew something first, because that's how we start the digestion process, not just drink everything first. So, shifting gears a little bit, do you find in terms of counseling for your autoimmune patients or people who've experienced POTS, what about other pillars of, health, like physical activity, sleep, hydration? Is there anything in the literature or from your, experience that has helped your patients kind of build their immune system a little bit better?
Yeah, so I think sleep is huge. I think one of the first two things, if my patient has like multiple issues going on, I think the first things I focus on are adrenal health, sleep, and digestion. Like those three things I think are like foundational to, kind of healing the body. And if they can't sleep, obviously non-pharmacological measures like, reducing screen time and things like that, or meditation. But if that's not quite enough, then definitely like sleep herbs, like, passion flower and things like that, or melatonin. And then, so I think that's huge. I'm not really big on encouraging people to exercise when they're chronically ill, because I think that just wipes them out, especially people with POTS, right? You're not going to like tell someone who can barely get out of bed to go run a mile, right? And I think, it's just really important to listen to the body. And I think, unfortunately, in our society, we're always taught to, like, at least I was taught, push through, like, power through, like, it's okay if you're exhausted. And I think that's just a recipe for disaster.
I've never heard of that before. That's like the first time. No pain, no gain.
Yeah, no pain, no gain. I think it's a load of garbage. I think it's really important to be very loving and nurturing to your body and listen to it. So when you're tired, I think you should just sleep. I don't think you should tough it out and push through, especially when you're chronically ill. Of course, if you're healthy and you want to like go to the gym and stuff, by all means, like push yourself. But if you're dealing with chronic illness, definitely don't. If they are capable of doing some kind of light exercise, I do just recommend simple walking. I know it sounds silly, but I think walking, just being outside in nature, is like so healing. And if they can tolerate it, I love rebounding, like jumping on a mini trampoline. I think it's actually for the lymphatic system. I think NASA did a study and found that like rebounding is more beneficial for the body than like running. So that's something I do every day. Like,
Wait, so just bouncing on a trampoline?
A mini trampoline, just do it for like 10 minutes a day. So I like to think about it as, one, to get the lymphatic system going. And unfortunately, our bodies are so filled with toxins, right? So like simple exercise or walking just is not enough to circulate our lymphatic system. And I like to think of it as like when you're bouncing, you're kind of like jiggling out toxins out of your lymph nodes. Is what I tell my clients. Like, just imagine every time you're bouncing, you're just jiggling out toxins and you're just getting them out of there. So I really love it, and it's really fun. You just like put on some music and bounce for 10 minutes. So yeah.
Awesome. I've been to a trampoline park and it wiped me out after like 5 minutes. It's actually exhausting to bounce around. It's exhausting.
Yeah. I think the little mini trampolines, you don't get as much height. So it's not like you're using your whole body. So
yeah, that's true. But that's a very important point is the physical activity with the chronic illnesses, especially the autoimmune, especially with this autonomia, because it's very, very important to understand that the nervous system, the adrenals, the cardiovascular is a little bit out of disarray, and we don't want it to kind of put it more out of disarray. So so in terms of timeline, just a thought, when you're counseling patients and you're seeing them progress and evolve over time and heal, does it take a long time, or is it more of like an individual journey? Is it very like gradual process? What is that journey? What is that journey been like, for you? Whether it's, for a patient or for yourself, is it just a very long process? Just so people can understand that it's not an overnight thing, right? Because we're so used to things and expecting things, happening, quickly. And that's not how medicine works. I still
Yeah.
have to talk about this all the time. So.
That's a great question. I think in regards to dysautonomia, it can take months to over a year. Because I think, again, like people with dysautonomia or POTS don't just have that. I have not had one patient that just has dysautonomia. Usually they have eczema and anxiety and digestive issues and so many other things going on. So it's not like a one size fits all. I think it takes a really long time. In regards to like digestive issues or like Hashimoto's, I think those are a little bit more quick, depending on the severity and things like that. Usually what happens is a lot of my clients will start with being on medications, whether they're hyper or hypo, depending on what kind of medication they are. And then eventually their symptoms will improve after a month or two. And then we can ask their prescriber to wean them off their medication or cut back on the dose.
Excellent. So my second and last question is that, someone's watching, they may have experienced, a condition that we've mentioned, or, that they've gone on your website, before coming to you, to be more on a individualized, plan. What are like 3 takeaways, or habits or lifestyle action steps you can tell them to start implementing, as a daily, thing? Or is it, seek me out, consult, let me sit down and have an individualized plan? Like, is there like a proactiveness to this? Because, like how would you go about that?
Great question. So I think, just little lifestyle changes. I think lemon water first thing in the morning. I think that's like, it's cheap, it's easy, like it takes 5 seconds to do it. I think that's a great place to start. I think having fruit for breakfast is a great place to start as well. I think smoothies are great because, like you said, you could put so many things in a smoothie, and like you would never eat like 3 bananas and a cup of berries and a cup of mangoes for breakfast. Like you just wouldn't, but when you blend it up, you'll probably drink the whole thing in 10 minutes. Yeah. So I think smoothies are a great place to start. I think, removing inflammatory foods, this doesn't have to be a forever thing, but I think, removing things like dairy and, gluten and things like that is huge for a lot of people. I think a lot of people get immediate relief. And I know it's really sad to kind of break up with those foods. But I think, you can make a lot of progress if you remove those, at least just temporarily while you heal. And I think sleep. I think that's a really undervalued thing. And stress reduction. I think it's really important. I think, unfortunately, women, we have a hard time saying no to people. So we end up doing a million things. I think mothers are like very guilty of this. Like they just don't prioritize their own health. So I think setting boundaries and, asking for help when you need it and reducing stress is really, really important, because your body can't heal when it's in fight or flight. You just can't. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then my last question is, this podcast is about thriving. Anything that we haven't mentioned today that you do in your personal time in order to continue to thrive for yourself?
Personally, I think setting boundaries. I think I grew up, I think, unfortunately, I'm a nurse. I like to do things for other people, right? So I'm constantly taking care of others. And then also I'm like a woman. So I think that just also predisposes me to doing a million things for other people. I think also I'm Middle Eastern. So I think also like my parents have very high expectations of me. So I think setting boundaries is huge for me. It's something I didn't really grow up with. So kind of enforcing the boundaries is huge, because I think that put a lot of stress on me, and just kind of like trying to live up to the expectations of others is really stressful. I'm sure you can identify this with this as well. Immigrant parents, man, they're just so intense.
Yeah, we were talking about my friend. They are intense. I come from a Chinese heritage and background, so they have their own version of intensity. So, but either way, it's intense, right? It's pressure. It's, just kind of things that are set out before you like came into this world, right? And you're like, whoa, I just, let me just try to, explore around and kind of get my feet wet, a little bit before, I tackle these things, if I want to tackle them. So,
right. Yeah. So I think setting boundaries is huge for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So Dr. Setare, thank you so much for taking the time out and going deep into, and sharing your healing journey and what you do. And I think it's an incredible, service, especially this subset of people that in a way are forgotten, neglected, falling through the cracks, like you said. So it's a very, very, I definitely, applaud you for, going into it. So
thank you. Thank you for having me.
how do people find you? How do they, seek a consultation? How do they make an appointment?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, healwithsetare.com. I have all my clients set up a free 20-minute discovery call with me, and that way we can make sure that we're a good fit. That's just another way for me to make sure the patient is stable enough to kind of undergo like more natural healing. We'll do that. And then, you can make an appointment for that if you'd like. You can also reach out to me on Instagram, Dr. Setare NP. I'm also on TikTok, but I don't post anything there. So yeah, I think
you will. You're gonna put all your food. You're gonna put all your food up there. That's what you're gonna do.
That's a good idea. I really should. I need to get on that. But yeah, I think my website or my Instagram is probably the best place to get in contact with me.
Definitely. And we'll, those will be in the show notes when this episode airs. So, Dr. Setare, thank you so much, again for coming on with us and for doing what you do. So, thank you and keep doing your great work and continuing to show up. So
thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of Thrive Bites Podcast. If you like this, please like, subscribe, and comment. And if you find that this is a benefit for someone else, please let them know. And until then, please say goodbye to Dr. Setare. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you like this, please like, follow, and subscribe. And please follow us for the latest updates for this season 5. And if you feel that this was a benefit for someone else, please let them know. And please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and YouTube. And thank you so much again. And we will see you on the next one.